Everyone doing today? Welcome to my photography live stream where we talk about photography and catch up with the community, see how everybody's doing. And as many of you are aware, the big announcement this week was the new OM system, OM3 camera, and I do have it on hand here. So uh, today will be again an open Q&A about anything photography related, but I imagine a lot of questions might be about this camera, and I answered as many questions as I can, through the comments and forums and other places, all the social media I have. So hopefully a lot of the questions have been answered, but uh, I just want to kind of give you a general consensus or feeling that I got using the camera and some of the feedback I got from other people in the photo clubs that I've met with and what I've been reading online. And there's it's very similar discussion that was had when the original Olympus Pen F came out. Uh, some people loved the design, some people hated it. The same technical things where they were like, why would you spend, $1,100 or whatever the price was, on a Pen F when you can get like an Sony A6300 for the same price or less? Uh, you know, just update that to 2025 and the discussions are exactly the same. Uh, and I think really the camera is about the style, right? The function is following the form rather than form following function. And so there's no argument about the grip, lack of grip and all of these things. But it's like I said, it's all about the style of the camera, and then the functions following that style. And some of the features and ergonomics that I've talked about in the past, there's definitely some compromises being made there to make it more compact and to conform to the design aesthetic that they were going for. And for me personally, I am ready to buy this camera, and I think because as I've said before, it really pulls at my heartstrings. I one of my first film cameras was the OM2 S back in college, and then more recently, like in 2012, 2013, I bought a silver OM2 and an OM1 film cameras for nothing more than I just really like the aesthetics of it. And I did shoot for it with all of those cameras, obviously. And the OM3 sort of, like I said, pulls at my heartstrings, getting that feeling of having that kind of styling and design in a modern digital camera. Now, I will say a big improvement that they did on this camera over the Olympus Pen F at its launch was it's essentially a no compromise camera in terms of the technology. It has all of the latest things that you can get uh, from OM systems right now. And, I think it's very, very competitive across the board. Uh, from feature set, capability, image quality, all of these things. And yeah, I can't imagine you really would need more, so to speak. I know everybody wants more, but do you really need more is the argument I'm making. And I so the the overall feedback I got is and the most predominant one is the pricing, right? That seems to be where it gives most people pause. They're like, wow, this was like 1500. I would definitely be getting it, but at 2000, that's a little bit of a stretch for what they perceive that they're getting. And there's no question, for $2,000, even within OM System's own ecosystem, you can get a technically better camera, more ergonomic, uh, more performance, dual card, more features like dual card slots and all of that stuff. But again, this camera's not about that at all. Uh, it's about delivering the design aesthetic and nostalgia of the iconic Olympus OM1 without compromising any of the features. Uh, because when you think about when the Pen F was released, The M1 Mark II had uh, phase detect, right? 20 megapixels, and it was released, I think, shortly after the Pen F. But in any case, people were complaining about that. And I will say that of all the OM system Olympus cameras I own, the Pen F probably has the worst autofocus of them all. Not by much. It's not like it's night and day difference, but it does struggle a little bit more than all of my other cameras. So, but I don't care. It's been my favorite camera. It's my most used camera even to this day. Uh, because I just love the design aesthetics and the feeling I get when I use that camera and take it out. And forever it's been one camera, one lens. What would it be? That's the one. And being in this space here on YouTube and in the community, I've had a chance to try them all, and no other camera even comes close to the Olympus Pen F for me. If I were to pick one camera, one lens, and yes, I can use it professionally. For architectural and real estate type photography that I do, and event photography, I would have no problems using that camera. You know, for sports action type stuff, that's not my genre. I might have a different opinion, right? But for the things that I do, and I think what most people will be doing, even today, the Olympus Pen F is still an excellent choice, or any of the OM system cameras. So, uh, I'm a big fan of Olympus OM systems, so you have to take that in the context of anything that I say about the camera. Generally, I'm going to have a positive spin on it because I just love the brand. I love the features and everything that they're doing there. I think it's the most intuitive camera system, despite the menu system to use as a photographer. Everything is logical. Everything is well executed, and you can go out and do everything with this camera. And I think a, a couple of things that the OM3 brings to the table, besides the styling, is I really like the new CP button, the computational photography button. I thought that was kind of like I initially I thought, okay, I'm going to reprogram that right away. I'm not going to use that. But I found myself actually using it and letting me get to the special features like the high res shot mode, the ND filters, the graduated ND filters, the multiple exposure, letting me get to all of these features very quickly really made me have a lot more fun with the camera and get better results. And uh, so that was surprising. So for those of you that are curious, I'm talking about this button right here, this CP button. You push that and it takes you right into all the computational features very quickly. Uh, and I've already talked about some of the minor changes I would make to this camera if I were to design it myself. Uh, specifically the mode dial up here, I think is grossly underutilized. I really feel like they should have just put the creative dials stuff in here and the off switch all on this one dial. And that would allow a button here and a new button here, if not two buttons up in the front. Because that's the only other thing. It's a little bit sparse on buttons, but this harkens back to the original design philosophy of this camera. They wanted to simplify it, but I think they did it to a fault. It's like a lot of the buyers for this camera, I think, are going to be existing OM system users and people that just love the design and nostalgia feeling that they get when they shoot with a camera like this. uh I think for me, more is better. More buttons is better, not more is less or less is more. But these are minor niggles for me. These are very 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 minor things. None of these are deal breakers. A deal breaker might be, gosh, it doesn't even have phase detect or whatever. Let's say they put the EM10 Mark IV inside of this body instead of the OM1 Mark II, and that would probably cut the price down to $1,000, whatever. I would still buy it because the price would be relative, right? But I'm much happier that they went this direction and made no compromises in terms of features. So, like I said, this and if you watch a lot of the reviews of my peers, I think most of them said they're going to buy it if they haven't already pre-ordered it. So that says a lot because we don't get these cameras free. It's just on loan, right? So we're gonna and we have the option, or I would say almost like the how do I put this? I mean, we can buy any camera we want, basically, right? I mean, financial constraints aside, we're not going to just buy any camera that a manufacturer sends to us. Like the Panasonic S9 didn't get a lot of love from the reviewers, but all I'm seeing about the OM3 so far has been very, very positive on the social media platforms from content creators like myself. But you guys who have been on my channel before know me and that I'm a fan, so I'm going to buy it, right? I'm a little biased in that sense, but uh, I was waiting for a camera like this from OM Systems because the OM1 Mark II came out, and it was very tempting to upgrade to that. But I said I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for the next one, and I'm so glad I did because now I can get this instead of the OM1 Mark II. And it's purely for the aesthetics of the camera and knowing that it has the feature set of the OM1 Mark II makes me very, very happy, puts me in a very, very happy place that I can feel very comfortable. And of course, you can wait till the next big sale, maybe even as soon as spring, but probably like Black Friday, that time frame. Maybe there'll be some nice discounts on this, maybe not, depends how it sells. But I think this camera is going to sell out. I think it's going to sell really, really well, even at this price point, because we're in a different place now than when the Pen F came out. Because the Pen F sat on the shelves a lot. You could get them everywhere. I'm not saying it sold poorly, but uh, unlike, say, the X100V, like the Fuji stuff, they're hard to get. And I think this is going to be in the same. We're going to have the same problem with this. They're going to be hard to get. So, uh, if you're excited about this camera and you want one, I would say just get it. Just get it. Life is short, you know? If you want the camera, just buy it. Uh, don't, and enjoy it. And if 6 months or a year from now the price is down, so what? You got to enjoy the camera and use it for that 6 months or a year. And if it goes the other direction where people are going to start charging more than retail price for it on eBay, like the X100V or even the Pen F is ridiculously priced. Don't get me started on the used camera market. I'm so pissed. I just can't stand the fact that those cameras ridiculously expensive. And then the major, like the flagship cameras, uh, are all crushed, right, in pricing. They lose their value pretty quick. And then, little boutique cameras like a Pen F, uh, that really wasn't a huge success when it came out, is like people want it now. I just don't get it. So that's my little intro and thoughts about the OM3 is I think the biggest thing is people wanted to see a lower price, and we all do. But I don't think it's I think it's very fairly priced for what it is. If you look at retail prices, the OM1 Mark IIs, uh, maybe 10-15% more. The OM5 is about 20% less. And then when things go on sale, all bets are off. But I'm just saying, at full retail prices, it's priced and slotted right in between the two. So I think it's a very fair price, and I can't wait to get my own copy of this camera. so I can really start to enjoy it uh, and use it. And it's definitely going to probably be the camera I take out the most going forward and replace the Pen F for probably most of my ventures out. And I'll only take the Pen F. The Pen F will be regulated to what most of my cameras are now. You know, I take them out once in a while when I feel like it versus uh, the first camera I grab normally is going to be the OM3. So let me get to the questions. I see a lot of people are here, and I know I know a lot of people have questions. I answered a lot of questions in the last couple of streams, and it doesn't have to be about the OM3. You can ask me anything, but I will do my best as always. So let's see. I see. Am I the only one disappointed with the OM3? Does Olympus need another $2,000 camera? Uh, yeah, I think that's the problem, right? Is OM system has to pick and choose. I don't think they have the resources to release multiple cameras across the uh, uh, different tiers, right? OM10 maybe that would be nice. $1,000 camera or less. $800 camera would be nice with phase detect, a mic jack, USB-C. Really, that's all they need to do, right? Put the OM5 into an OM10 body, take out the weather sealing, and drop the price to 800 bucks, right? So it would just take it wouldn't take a lot of research and development because they would just be recycling the parts that they already have, but creating a more affordable camera that's very capable, at a lower price point. So I don't disagree with you in that the idea of releasing another high-end camera, essentially, do we really need one? Me for one, I'm glad they did make it. I'd rather have a higher end retro style camera than a lower end one lacking, all of the features that I would use. Because if they did release this in, say, an OM10 type spec, right? Or EM10 type spec, or even the OM5 specs, that'd be a tough call. I'd probably get it. But if it had EM10 type specs, I'd be hard pressed to buy it because I'm like, I got an Pen F, and it feels that retro vibe nostalgia that I enjoy with cameras. So for me, I'd rather pay a little more and get more, right? And I fully expect a $200 discount by Labor Day. That would be wonderful. I hope they do, really, because I want people to get into the system and enjoy it and enjoy photography in general. And if the design aesthetic and it appeals to more people, and if it was the pricing that gave people pause, yeah, let's have some more discounts. I mean, the current discounts here in the US didn't motivate me a whole lot because I'm already an OM system user and I have a lot of lenses. So the offerings that they offer, Weather Seal 17 and 25, didn't appeal to me uh, in their launch. The 5-year warranty appeals to me, but not the discounts on the lenses. And I see David's here, Peter's here. Good morning, Marco. Good to see you. Oh, wow, you got snow. That's awesome. We're gonna get snow here in a couple days, I think. And hello, Christopher from Prince Edward Island, and Jeff Painter. Good to see you. And I know Jeff's pre-ordered his. Um, it's like I said, life, life is short. Just if you want it, just get it. I don't want to. I don't want to try and sell you on the camera in the sense that it's the best thing since sliced bread. I want you to enjoy your life. If another camera brand brings you joy, buy that one. You know, this is such a wonderful hobby. The community is awesome, and there's nothing like going out and just going out for a photo walk and taking pictures and trying new things and capturing moments with your family and friends. That's to me, that's what makes life so wonderful is, having photography as part of that and being competent and having a capable piece of gear with you to help you capture those moments. There's really no better feeling for me, and the image, I'll cherish the images forever. I have so many images I've captured over the years from multiple different camera brands. Do I care what camera I captured it on? No, I care about the images that I captured, and the memories that I have, with my family, friends, my pets, and just more specifically with my pets. But uh, and hello, Cliff. Good to see you. And Christopher says, I think OM System has nailed it with this camera. It's OM's answer to the Nikon ZF and Fuji X100. I like this one better. They've taken a pragmatic approach to features and looks. Yeah, I agree 100%. 100%. I really think they nailed it. And it's just, anyway, I've said everything, all my thoughts. I won't repeat them. And Barano, good evening. Wow, it has been a while, hasn't it? Good to see you. I'm glad you could make it today. And Leslie, good to see you. And David Crooks, let's see. OM3 pretty much has the same guts as the OM1 Mark II. That can justify the price point. Yes. So, and that is the price point, right? It's basically uh, just an OM1 Mark II and a more compact body. I mean, you could argue that making it more compact should drive the price up, right? But you know, uh, that's not how OM System played it. They said, let's place it between the OM5 and the OM1 and price it accordingly. I mean, imagine if they priced it at 2,500 or 3,000. I don't know. There would still be lunatics like me that would buy it, but at $2,000, I'm quite content with the pricing. I don't mind paying full price for it, knowing that I'm going to have the, the the pleasure and enjoyment of using the camera uh, for as long as it lasts, right? Or as long as I last, for the rest of my life, basically. I'm going to enjoy this camera just like the Pen F. I'm going to enjoy it for the rest of my life. Workhorse cameras like my OM1, uh, my EM1s prior to that, those I won't miss if I replace them, right? I'll replace the OM1 Mark one that I have uh, when there's some significant update to the features and performance. I'll update it then. So that's why I didn't really get the OM1 Mark II, because there weren't really any significant updates that I would be able to take advantage of. I kind of like the Live ND or Grad ND that they have, but that's minor for me. Better buffer performance. The OM1 Mark II has some nice updates to it, but nothing that I felt and that's why the prices on these flagship cameras, like look at the R5 Mark I, crash, you know? Look at the D850 or the Z7 Mark II. These were premium cameras when they came out, crash. Uh, so, and Cliff says exactly the same rationale as you. I'm ordering my OM3 over in the last month. I bought a second OM2 and a 150 to 4. Wow. Wow. I was talking to a, a friend of mine in the photo club yesterday. She's a Sony shooter, and she's asked me for to help her find a lightweight, like 400 millimeter f2.8. And I looked at the existing one. It's like a $10,000 lens, and it's 6.5 pounds, almost 7 pounds of lens. What's that? Like 3 kilos, whatever. It was big and heavy. I was like, I don't know even third party is going to attempt to do something like that. I mean, there's the Sigma 500F 6.3, is it? That ain't going to cut it for her. Uh, she wants that fast aperture to lower her ISO and all of that. We'll see. I mean, I couldn't talk her. I just could not talk her into getting a 300 f4 with the OM1. She just couldn't do it. Even though she looks at my pictures and she's like, "Gosh, they're so sharp all the time. How do you do that?" I'm like, no, I could do it with your camera, uh, just the same, but I would do it with half the size and weight. Okay, and Robin Wong, hello. How are you? Good to see you. I'm so glad you could join the stream. Robin Wong is awesome. And he's going to be with me on February 23rd for part 2 of the Micro Four Thirds annual meetup. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to post the link for that soon. I'm still trying to coordinate some other guests into the stream because I don't want to have 6 or 7 people on at the same time or 8 people on. I'm trying to split it out a little bit. So, Robin, you're set for the 23rd, but I need to split it up a little bit somehow. And LB Designer said, I think I would pick the ZF over this just for looks. 10F. Yeah, and you know, the ZF is a beautiful camera too. I had gas for that thing, but it tempered quite a bit because I have a DF. And what tempered me mainly was investing in all the lenses again. I'd probably only get 2 or 3 lenses, if that. I'd probably get like 2 lenses, maybe the 40f2 and some 24 to 70, zoom, like the f4 I think they have. But it has all, honestly, it really has all of the same quirks as the OM3 in terms of handling, working with the dials. Some people like the shutter speed and ISO on top, stuff like that. I don't like that myself. I'm glad they didn't do that to this one, but uh and then there's actually some technical limitations, right? I mean, pixel for pixel, full frame is always going to deliver better image quality. I mean, it's a fact. But uh, there's some limitations, right? What's the fastest frames per second that camera can do? And I'm talking about probably genres that are outside of the audience for that kind of camera, right? I don't see people using this or ZF for birding and sports action. But if you were, this one is a much more capable camera than the ZF because of the 120 frames per second, continuous autofocus, all of that stuff, right? Has shutter speed up to 1/32,000th of a second, and then the computational things like the grad ND, live ND, live composite. It there's a lot of features there that I think the audience for that camera would really appreciate. Particularly the live ND and grad ND and live composite. That would be those are features that I think the audience for either ZF or the OM3 would be interested in, but the ZF doesn't offer those things. And I don't know what the workflow is for the high-res shot. I believe, though, you still have to import and use Nikon's proprietary. I don't know. I'm not going to talk about the ZF because I don't know. But it's a bigger system overall. But if you stick with like the 40f2 and maybe a zoom, a 24 to 70 f4, it's still a nice compact system, full frame, and ultimately will deliver better stills, right, in low light. And the autofocus, some people might argue, is even better. I can't speak to that, but it's still on my short list. It's behind a few other cameras I'm interested in outside of OM systems. But if somebody gave me one, I wouldn't complain. I would enjoy it, you know. Uh, but I and they're selling for like 1,400 now on the used market. And that's the only thing that gives me a little concern about the OM3 is when you look at the ZF, the pricing is not holding up in the used market like the X100 series. So is the OM3 going to fall to into the same fate, right? Where once it's released, you can pretty easily get it for the most part. Maybe not initially, but 6 months from now, everyone will have one that you can buy. And then the used market will come up and you'll start seeing prices like 1,400. That would be that could be one direction. The other direction could be like the X100. You know, it's going to be hard to get up front. It's going to be hard to get 6 months later. And then if you want to buy it used, they're going to charge you more than $2,000. For me, it doesn't matter. I'm going to get it at 2,000 and I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm going to love all of the features that it offers and etc. And the OM1 was more expensive when it came out. Yes. Wasn't it like 2,300? And good morning, Caesar. How are you? And greetings to everyone, fellow Olympus and OM system enthusiasts enjoying the show from Edmonton, AB. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming in today. And nice camera, just not in the market for a new camera right now. Yeah, I feel you. If I bought the OM1 Mark II, I'd be struggling to get this. So I'm glad I waited. Because I've had the OM1 Mark I for 3 years now. So it's it's just long enough for me that I already paid off the OM1 because I put that on 0% financing for like a year and a half. God, it feels like took forever to pay. I feel like I paid it off yesterday, but I paid it off a little over a year ago. Uh, but yeah, I happen to be in the market for an OM system camera, and I'm so glad this is here now. The timing is really perfect. 3 years after, because I bought the OM1 in like March of 2022 when it came out, and I paid full price, and I've enjoyed and used the camera, and it's more than paid for itself, you know, through work. But it's a work camera. It's not a camera I'm using other than birding. It's not a camera I really use for anything but work. But now I can use the OM3 for birding. Maybe. Let's see. I need to get a grip though. Third-party grip. It's desperately needed. And Christopher Wheeler says, my favorite camera for just picking up and using remains my original EM1 Mark I, and sometimes the design and handling of the camera trumps the feature set. Yes, always. The very first camera purchase of this year for 2025 was an EM1 Mark I for me. I got the silver edition, paid 250 bucks, right? Uh, this is, you know, when you put these two cameras side by side, I mean, OM Systems already has kind of a vintage look. The M1 Mark I in silver is very, very close, isn't it? In terms of, and it's actually a little narrower in width. And it has what everybody, let's say some people don't like, you know, the flip out screen. They prefer this tilt for street stuff. But yeah, I can tell you the M1 Mark, the M1 Mark 1, 2, and 3, all three of them I feel are just slightly more comfortable than the OM ones for one little thing. And that's this part right here. This nice little indentation. So when you put your hand on the camera, you get a little less pressure on your palm, right? Whereas look at the OM one. It's straight down, right? Versus And the EM1 Mark II and Mark III uh, did that even better. They have a little bit more of a curvature here. And that just makes, for me, my hands so much more comfortable. Gosh, this camera feels tiny after picking up the OM1. But this is a great camera, and I'm so happy I could get this in silver. And yeah, this is going to be regulated to the shelf and just take out once in a while when I just feel like using it, and minimizing all of the technology and going back to composition, taking my time, right, with the shots and knowing that I'm going to be limited. I'm not going to be able to just fire off 50 frames per second to capture a bird in flight. You know, I have to have a little more precision and improve my skill set to do that. Because yeah, people used to get birds in flight before pro capture and all of that, right? Why can't I do that? I'm going to try. And let's see. And this side towards screen, happy Sunday. Good to see you. If I hadn't literally just purchased the OM1 last month, I'd definitely be in line for an OM3. It offers the advantages of digital while too familiar to an old, yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's been 3 years for me, so I'm ready. I'm ready for a new OM system camera. And the higher the number, the lower level of features. In general, other camera manufacturers do the same. So I think what Dave's saying is like OM1 is usually like the number one is their flagship camera, and then lower numbers, you know, the cameras are not their flagship camera. They're just tiered down. Generally, doesn't always hold true. Like Canon R1, Canon R3, Canon R5, Canon R6, Canon R7, Canon R10. So you got Canon R1 at the top, and then you start to lose features and other things when you get down to the Canon R10. But then they have the Canon R50, the Canon R100. The Canon R50 is lower than a Canon R10, and the Canon R100 is lower than all of them. So actually, it does hold all the way down. It does hold. Uh, you know, Nikon Z9, Nikon Z8 is in the opposite direction, right? Z9 is their flagship. Z8 is their compact flagship. Z7 was their flagship. Z6 was lower than the Z7. So Nikon seems to go the opposite direction. But anyway, naming conventions aside, you know, uh, just get the camera that's right for you. And Jeff says, I was weaned on film cameras in the 70s that look like the OM3, so I'm looking forward to a camera that has such excellent form and functionality. Yes. And the emphasis on form, right? And it's completely capable. The only compromise, you know, in the camera really is the frames per second and the buffer. I think the mechanical is limited to 6 frames per second versus say 10, and the buffer is limited to 68 frames instead of like 92 as the OM1, or the OM1 Mark II I think has like 200 frame buffer, something like that, right? And my two things are missing that would have made the OM3 a pro level is grip and 2 card slots. Yeah. So you can buy a third-party grip, for example, right? But not having 2 card slots definitely makes it uh, not pro, or not geared towards professionals that like that redundancy of dual card slots. I would have preferred dual card slots because that's just a workflow I have now, but uh, 1 card slot is fine for a camera like this, I think. And Plato says reviewers are all positive, potential customers not so much. Most people say OM system will not attract new customers with this model. It's too expensive. Yeah, I'm feeling the same thing from uh, people that are already into cameras. I'm curious to see how the camera performs market wide, right? Because as photographers and people that are in this bubble, right? Because we're all looking at specs and performance and features. Uh, the overall capability of the camera, say, versus other cameras at the same price points. We do this analysis very quickly, right? And because the OM3 is a known quantity in terms of performance and capability, because it's still OM1 Mark II, it's even easier for us to make that evaluation between it and other cameras at similar price points, even within OM System's own lineup. And I get the exact same feeling. People are taking a little pause with the price point and uh, versus, they can just get an OM1 Mark II right now. It's on sale for the same price, I think. And of the two cameras, yeah, capability, feature set, the OM1 Mark II is the better camera. But this camera is about form, not so much functionality. And I'm curious to see how this will do in the market. It looks like it's already sold out at Amazon. Amazon's a little weird though, because I was able to pre-order it on Amazon 2 days ago. And when I go to their site now, it says currently not available. So did they sell out of existing stock, or did they just mess up their online uh, cataloging system or whatever they use? So I'm curious. Uh, District Camera still doesn't have it on their website. So I'm going to call them tomorrow and see if I can order it by phone because it's not on their website yet. I can go to other websites like Hunt's and, the usual places, B&H, and pre-order it. But I'm going to do my best to order from my local camera store. And the OM3 is getting good press along the whole, yes, as it should. It's such an awesome camera. And like I said, I think everyone that's reviewed it, and most of us have no skin in the game at this point, right? We haven't bought the camera ourselves. Maybe it's been pre-ordered. Uh, but as soon as I have the camera, most of them they have no skin in the game in the sense that they're not getting the camera for free. They're not trying to uh, sell you the camera because there was, OM System doesn't have an affiliate program as far as I know. So ordering, because initially when it came out, you could only order it from OM Systems, and then there was a pre-order from some of the sites. So maybe there's a little bit there. You always have to take online content creators and such with a grain of salt. Do your own due diligence. Make sure the camera makes sense for you. But like I said, because it's a known quantity in terms of capability and feature set, for people that are already in the photography world, in this little bubble, it's an easy decision one way or the other. Yes, I'm going to buy it, or no, I'm not, right? But like I said, I'd like to see how the market grabs onto this camera. I hope it sells like crazy. I really do. And get people that have never used Micro Four Thirds into the system and start to really see all of the advantages uh, that we're all familiar with Micro Four Thirds. The lens ecosystem is tremendous, and the capabilities of the camera are second to none. I mean, I don't know any other camera that has all of these features and executes them so well. And I just I hope, and I think it will. And good morning, Marcia. Good to see you. And Chura says, I heard someone saying the Fuji cameras have in-camera photo stacking and high-res modes, saying all the other cameras have the features of the OM3. Is that the case? A lot of them do, but this goes back to what I said about execution. Uh, I haven't done it in a long time. Definitely my Sony, the Fuji, and I think the Nikon as well. You have to export the photos into their own proprietary software to stack them to get the high-res image. And that workflow is horrendous to the point that I don't see really anybody that buys the camera is going to do that. They're not going to use the high-res shot mode in those cameras. Now, if there's some professional reason that they need to do that, they're going to make a workflow to use the high-res shot. And for whatever reason they need it, maybe it's art reproduction, document reproduction, whatever. Any kind of situation where, every single pixel matters, then, and the more the better, then they will make that work. But the average consumer, they're not going to use the high-res shot mode. The focus stacking is not in camera on any of these. Focus stacking has to be done in post-processing, using Photoshop or whatever other stacking software there is. And feel free to correct me in the chat section if I'm wrong about anything I'm saying about these other cameras, because I'm just kind of going off the top of my head here. But with the home system camera, stacks in camera, so you get a finished, beautifully stacked image, focus stacked image. High-res shot mode, all processed in camera, beautifully done in 10 or 15 seconds. The only other company that does this well is Panasonic now. Panasonic executes high-res shot mode and focus stacking extremely well. So, and again, and they do that for their Micro Four Thirds and for their full frame cameras. They do an excellent job. Don't get me started on the S1R. I think I'll wait till the S1R Mark II comes out and see if that's worth getting into. And it's not so much the capabilities of the camera. The capabilities, I have all that in my own system cameras, but it's the lens system. I really thought the L-mount glass available for the Panasonic cameras is incredibly good value, extremely sharp. They just have a great lens. They're large and a little bit more expensive, or the same as Micro Four Thirds. But anyhow, I digress. But yes, that is true. And Shri is here. Good to see you. And it says this tight sort screen. If you bought an OM3 as your first camera, what minimal lens would you get with it? Kit lens, zoom, or prime? I think the 14 to 42 or the 12 to 45 f4 lens. It's only $300 more to get that lens with the camera. I would just get that. If I was going to add a prime, it would be the 17 or the 25 1.8s. So those would be, and that'll probably get you 90% of your photos. If you need more reach, the 40 to 150 f4 Pro. If you want to maintain the weather sealing, if you don't care about weather sealing, the 40 to 150 kit lens, for like $199. I'm going to do some shots with that lens and the OM3. I've used it many times on my other cameras, and it's fabulous, fabulous, most underrated lens ever, or most undervalued lens ever, I should say. I think everyone knows how good that lens is now, so I shouldn't say underrated, but it's definitely undervalued. That lens is $199, and it's tremendous. And Zoltan, good to see you. Adam Farr, good to see you. And Cliff, let's see, bought a Pen F when it was released, a great camera, but being left eye shooter, I couldn't get on with it while being rangefinder. The OM3 looks perfect for me. I'm ordering mine today. Awesome. You will love it. If you add on the fact that, you're left eye dominant, I can see, you know, this being uh, a huge leap in terms of how enjoying the camera and using the camera. So congrats. I can't wait to see everyone's pictures with the OM3 when they start getting posted and stuff. I've started posting some on my Flickr and Instagram. So look for some pictures from the OM3 there. Actually, I should show you one I did. Let's see. So my Flickr, I have some pictures here with different lenses on it. So you can look at that. And let's see. This is the OM3. Just ignore the EXIF data. I'll tell you a little trick. If you change the EXIF data to say OM1 Mark II or OM1, you can process the raw images. So if you want me to do a video on how to do that, I can do that. But I had to change the name to OM1 so I could process. This is a 4-shot pano. It's just beautiful. Let's see. Where's the shot I wanted to show you? Maybe it's on my Instagram. Yeah, this one. This is what I did with the OM3 in camera. And what I did was I took 3 shots and I overlaid them on top of each other. So one was like a static shot. Another one was an ICM shot where I spun the camera around. And then the third one is another ICM shot. So I have 2 ICM intentional camera movement shots where I'm, doing this with the camera with a slow shutter. Because you can see I'm like at f22 and 0.63 seconds. But one was a still shot at a normal, exposure setting. And then I blended them in camera and adjusted things. So if you want to know how to do this, I have a video on multiple exposures on my channel. It'll show you how to do things like this. But I did this with the OM3. Okay. And good morning. Good morning, AJ, Rob, and all. I have a feeling I will be getting the OM3. If it's in your budget, just get it. It's such an awesome camera. I would just get it. With NEX splash proof, with the next splash proof primes coming out, does anybody think the used old 25 will go down? I don't know. They're already pretty low on the used prices anyway. The new market, they'll probably have some fire sales on them to get them out of stock. I just hope they come out with a silver version with the weather sealing. I think it looks really good in silver. Let's see. Yeah, I have a picture here with the silver 25 1.8. And the silver match is pretty close. It's not a perfect match, but the silver match is pretty close. And there's the new 17 and the 45. So check these out if you're curious how it's going to look. And Tim Adams says, will the OM3 affect used camera prices? I just bought the M1 Mark III for $660. I doubt it. It's a niche camera, so it's not really competing with other cameras at this point. Yeah, I don't see it making any difference. And good morning, Jamie. Good to see you, Jamie Gonzalez. And John Steiner says, OM3, wow, the blend of Pen F, OM5, OM1 Mark II, and a classic SLR body. Rob, how was the handling with different lenses? Okay, this is an excellent question. Uh, so let me talk about the handling. Without a grip, right? Let me take this hood off so you can see the camera a little better. Without a grip, a small prime like this is no problem, okay? Uh, handling wise. However, that's for just taking pictures. If I want to make any adjustments to the button, I can't let go of it, right? Or like on my OM5, I can just get a little tighter grip with these three fingers here and then maneuver the buttons if I need to. And I can do that one-handed. You can't do that with a camera like without a grip. You can't do that. As soon as I let go of the thumb grip, the camera's gonna drop out of my hands because to hold the camera, you have to use your thumb and your front three fingers to hold it. And the only way to deal with the buttons is, to hold the camera properly with your left hand, right? And then you can move, you can do all of this, right? A one-handed operation's okay if you're just shooting in program mode and you don't need to move the focus points or do anything with the buttons on the back. This is perfectly fine. Now, depending on your hand, your fingers are going to have to navigate around the protrusion here for the strap, right? So maybe you do this. And then also with the front dial here, it's lower, so because a lot of people are having problem with the pen F rubbing on their knuckles. With this one, you won't have that problem, but you do need to make room. Like I can't just rest my hand like this. I have to navigate around that button a little bit, right? Not a big deal. When you pick up the camera, it's not a big deal. And some question if this dial is going to turn accident. It's not. This thing is solid. Okay, that's not going to turn. So one-handed operation, and then the change of settings. You bring your hand up, change your settings, and then you can go back to one-handed if you want, no problem. Again, keeping in mind you have to navigate around this protrusion because, and this is the beauty of the OM1. If you look at the OM1, the grip is awesome, but your fingers don't have to navigate around this protrusion because it's on top of the camera. It's not sticking out the side, right? So you never have to navigate your fingers. You don't have to navigate your fingers around any dials. You don't have to navigate your fingers around a protrusion on the side. Your hand just goes right on there and you're good to go because the strap is on top of the camera and the strap lug. Uh, and that's just not the case. And that's an improvement that the OM1 EM1s had over the original EM1 Mark I because the protrusions on the side. You still kind of have that issue, but they placed the lug kind of far back. So you really don't have a problem with this particular protrusion because it's so far back. But you don't have that option on the OM1. I guess they could have moved it back here, and that might have made a difference. No, what would happen is then your finger would be pushing up against because of the depth of this camera is not very thick. There's nowhere to put this. And if they put it on top, you would lose the buttons here, right? You wouldn't have room for the buttons. Uh, so that's handling with a small prime. Now with larger lenses, uh, and this goes for 12 to 100, 40 to 150 Pro, any larger lens, 300 Pro. I can still hand hold this. It's a little heavy, right? One-handed operation, but the other things don't change. I can't let go of it with my thumb to navigate the buttons one-handed. I always have to do this. So when I was shooting with the 12 to 100 yesterday, uh, I was always shooting, zooming in and out, and holding the camera like this, and it's a pleasure to use. No problem because the left hand is holding and zooming, my right hand is free to navigate the buttons, the focus points, the touch screen, whatever, the CP button, all of these things. Very easy to navigate when you're holding the camera with your left hand with the larger lenses. So if you're worried about larger lenses, yeah, don't hold your, even with a prime, really don't hold your camera like this. There's no grip. Okay, you can't navigate the buttons, but with a larger lens, you're always holding it like this. And then you can just bring your right hand up and do whatever to push the buttons on the back. So larger lenses handling, no problem. It feels very secure, very solid. Uh, and I don't see any difference really, even with the OM1, with the larger lenses, because you're always holding it with your left hand. The grip, the only thing the grip does is when you're using smaller primes, it allows you, see, I can let go of this with my thumb and just hold the camera with my 3 fingers in my palm and navigate the buttons, the touch screen, whatever. But this camera, one-handed, no way. Even if I try to use the touch screen, like you can move the control points and stuff, or the focus point with your thumb. There's no way I could do that one-handed. It's always going to be a two-handed operation, even with a small prime. So just keep that in mind. This is definitely, like I said, form over function, right? The form factor really compromises the compatibility. Now, some of you have seen I've put the grip on here from my EM5 Mark III. It fits on here pretty well, actually. And with that grip, this feels 100 times better. So once I get this camera, and as soon as they're available, I'm going to get a third-party grip and a half leather case. I'm going to probably get both. Either one of those would add just enough lip here for me. A half leather case will give me a little bit of a lip, like on my Pen F. There's a little bit of a lip here for me to get a really decent grip, and then I can still navigate the buttons and stuff one-handed. And that'll do the same for this. If I had a grip on here, then I could squeeze with these 3 fingers, and then my thumb will be free to navigate the buttons. So a grip will go a long way, and it'll also protect the bottom plate. I'm not one to put my camera on a concrete or brick or rock like you see every other social media content creator do. I don't know why. God, that drives me nuts. They take the lens, no lens cap, and they just put it down on a concrete wall or something and do B-roll. I'm like, why? Why? One of my pet peeves with content creators, putting their cameras on a rock or a brick or cement wall or on a sidewalk. What's wrong with you? Anyhow, so I always put full plates, like you see on my OM1. I always put full plates on the bottom and a full plate grip because I have the Arca Swiss, all of that. Okay, sorry, I went on a long way with that, but it's important. How does a camera handle with different lenses? It's important you understand. When people say, yeah, the thumb grip is great, because people have been commenting and telling me that others are saying that the thumb grip is great, they have no problem holding. Yeah, if all you're going to do is take pictures like this, yeah, you can hand hold the camera with one hand. The thumb grip works great in that sense. But if you want to change any settings, your focus point, your whatever, if you want to push a button, the CP mode, yeah, you can't do it with one hand. You have to hold it because there's no grip. Okay, let me drink a little coffee. But that doesn't take away from my want for this camera. I want that camera so bad. And why did they not use the 25 sensor that Panasonic uses? Nice to get a megapixel jump. I don't know. I'd imagine they've already spent all the R&D for the OM1 Mark II sensor processor, that getting the 25 megapixel would have set this camera back a long way. Like, it may never come out. So I think it's just a matter of they've already done the R&D with the current. And this is a stack sensor, has slightly better low light performance from what I can see, uh, than the 25 megapixel sensor, and presumably a little less rolling shutter because it's stacked. I've never used a 25 megapixel sensor myself. I might have to get me a G9 Mark II or something. If they put that 25 megapixel sensor in a lower end camera, like if they could release another GX9 Mark II with that 25, I would probably get that. But I'm a little hesitant to get the G9 Mark II because I had the S5 Mark II and I didn't really care for the body. I felt it was just didn't feel comfortable. Wasn't too heavy or anything. It just wasn't comfortable in my hand. It was even worse than my OM1. And not that the OM1 is bad, but the best handling camera I ever felt in my life was the EM1 Mark III. That was the most comfortable in my hand as ever. This one is a close second. The S5, aka the G9 Mark II, is way behind in terms of how the camera feels in my hand. And it's a very individual, personal thing. But that's why I haven't jumped on the G9 Mark II. If the G9 Mark II had the kind of handling and ergonomics that I could feel like I do with this one, I might have it by now. Uh, but anyhow, I am going to try and get through these. The M43 market is only so big right now. Making another camera on the same price as others are drinking from the same trough. If you want to grow it, you need to get new people in. Yeah, and I think that's the intent of this camera, is to, yeah, tug at the base's heartstrings. Those are going to be all the initial buyers. But then, as I mentioned earlier, I'm curious to see how well it attracts new buyers into the system. I think it will, but uh, your assumption here is that people are going to be looking at specs, functionality, feature, capability of, say, the OM1 Mark II versus the OM3, which, are kind of at the same price right now because of sales. Why would you pick the OM3 over the OM1 Mark II if they were the same price? And it's mainly because of the aesthetics. So is that going to be enough to appeal to uh, a different generation of buyers, of new buyers, right? We'll see. We'll see, right? Let's see. Next year annual meetup, we'll talk about it. And ATR Bear, good morning. For those photographers who cherish the retro feel and look, this provide that itch. Myself, I just love my M1X, M1 Mark III, and M5 Mark III. Yes, and the M1 M5 Mark III is a very retro looking camera. Retro design and very capable, and half the price. Shall I go on? There's so many. All I can say is you have a lot of excellent choices with the OM system as it is now. But they could do more, right? We need something below $1,000. Clint Johnson, good morning, Rob and all. Just popping in a while. We have signal on the way home from our annual midwinter weekend, Moab, Utah. Oh wow, Moab. When I was into Jeeps, I was really thinking about going out there to Moab. Anyway, Arcs National Park was amazing as always. G92 was solid. Yes. G92 is certainly a very capable camera, the best that Micro Four Thirds has to offer, right alongside with the OM1 Mark II, in my opinion. OM3 is give most of my other gear the side retro vibes buzzing. Yeah, exactly. It's just tugging at our heartstrings, the nostalgia and the popularity of the retro looking camera these days. right? It's kind of a trend, maybe. Maybe because of the resurgence of film cameras, and people are like, yeah, film's a pain in the butt. So I'm just going to buy a digital camera that looks like a film camera. Rob Trek and Robin Wong. Robin Trek. Rob Trek and Robin Wong, my favorite M43 tutors of mine, and I've learned a lot about digital photography from them. Thanks, Rob. Oh, you're welcome. And thank you, Robin, for being there in the Micro Four Thirds community. And thank you, Zoltan, for being an enthusiast for the Micro Four Thirds system. And hello, Barry. Good to see you. And Casper, good to see you. And Paul says the 300 f4 is amazing. I agree 100%. Finest lens ever made, next to the 150 to 400 possibly. Please help. I can't decide. Cesar Antonio says, please help. I can't decide which one is better between the 100 to 400 Mark II versus the Lumix 100 to 400 Mark II. Been trying to decide which one to trade it with my ED 300 f4 IS Pro for versatility. I would go with whichever one you can get a better deal on. I think optically they're pretty close. I've only shot with the 100 to 400 Mark I. We'll assume that the Mark II is optically identical. The Lumix the 100 to 400, I have not heard one single person complain about that lens. So I'm sure optically it's at least as good as the Olympus version, OM system version. The question is, which one can you get at a better price? The Lumix, I think, also offers a smaller size. You know, overall, it's a smaller lens. So if that's a priority, get the Lumix. If price is a priority, get the cheaper of the two. I don't think you'll be disappointed with either one. Now, if you have an Olympus camera, the Mark II will offer the addition of dual sync stabilization, which is very, very useful for bird on a stick type photography, videography if you're recording wildlife. That's going to be awesome for that. And the Lumix 100 to 400 is not going to do that on your Olympus camera or OM system camera, but the Olympus OM system lens will. So I would get the Mark II for the dual sync image stabilization, assuming you have an OM system camera. If you don't have an OM system camera, I would just get the cheaper of the two. And hello from Derek from Northumberland. That's a tough one to pronounce for me. I don't know why. Been watching for a long time, but first time here. Wow, that is awesome. I'm glad you came in and said hello. So good to have you here. AJ Cooper, let's see. Hi in Adelaide, Australia. The OM3 is $36.99 compared to the OM1 Mark II for $33. Wow. Assuming that, I guess that might be the sale price, but anyway, it's cheaper, right? What I've seen so far, it is two cameras in one in a smaller size. Not sure what you mean by two cameras in one, other than being a retro camera with advanced features. That would be two very two. I get what you mean. I don't know how to word it though, but I get what you mean. It's a tough call though, man. That I think everything in Australia feels like it's double the price, but like I said in the very beginning, if you like the camera, just get it. Life is short, man. And Christopher Wheeler says, lenses are a real issue. The idea is not just to find a few you reliably enjoy. Too many lenses, no matter how good, just complicates things. 12 to 42.8, 41, 52.8, and a fast prime are perfect. And that is how many professionals work, is they'll get two lenses and a prime, like the 85 or the 45, and they're done, right? And for many people, they get paralyzed because there's too many choices for them to go out and shoot with. They're like, "Oh, should I take the 8? Should I take the 25? Should I take the 12 to 40?" You know, they get a little bit paralyzed, right? Like what lens to take, and they end up bringing everything. Uh, and a nice setup like that, you could even go smaller, 12 to 45 f4, 40 to 150 f4, and a 45 1.8 or 25 1.4. And you got such a small, compact, lightweight, capable system, right? Weather sealed, you're done. Uh, Maybe the 21.4 at an extremely affordable price. If you were to price spec that out with a full frame system, size and weight go up dramatically, and then prices do too. And Wayne is here. Good to see you. And Natura says, my issue with M43 now is that I have too many vintage lenses that I think perform much better. Yeah, the thing with adapting vintage lenses is most of them are like 35, 50, 135 millimeter. And you have to double that on a micro four thirds. So the field of view is difficult to work with vintage lenses. And when you try to get wide angle vintage lenses, they get really expensive. You might as well buy the native lenses for micro four thirds. Um, but I agree. I agree. Full frame lenses, vintage lenses were made for full frame 35 millimeter film. And you get all of the wonderful imperfections and character when you use the lens full frame versus cropping into just a quarter, right? So, yeah. I consider the price in the UK very fair and can't wait to get one. Yes, I cannot wait. I'm dying. I mean, I have it on loan, so it's kind of tempering my angst to get one on pre-order. And I can wait until my local camera store has it. But if you know, if it wasn't for that, I might have pre-ordered it right now on Amazon instead. But and Jay says, just got into MFT last year with the GH7, but wanted another camera for EDC. This OM3 could not have come out at a better time. Yes, I'm in the same boat. It's perfect timing for me. 3 years after the OM1 Mark 1, now I have the OM3 coming. I'm so happy. And Drew is here. Hello. Everyone's having a great day. Thank you. I am. I hope you are too. And for example, if I want to adapt the 85 1.2 full frame lens, I want the 85 field of view. Yeah, just like I was saying, it's hard on M43 because of the crop factor. And Walter is here. Good morning. Wow, that was almost, golly, I'm so far behind on chat. I'm going to try and move along, but great to see you, Walter. And Christopher, if I hadn't really just purchased the OM1 lens, I'd definitely be in line for the OM3. Offers event. Oh, wait. Did my chat just jump again? It did. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can get back to where I was. That's there, Casper. Here we go. Derek says, OM3 seems to be a logical upgrade for anyone using a Pen F, especially when the price drops. Yes. It is. It is. I mean, if you want to, if you don't care if it's rangefinder or SLR style, it's an awesome upgrade to the Pen F. It's an awesome upgrade. I don't look at it as an upgrade to the Pen F so much as, you know, it's another camera because it's SLR instead of rangefinder. And something about the S5 going on here between Vermis. Yeah, the Lumix S5. Lumix S5, when I had it, was an incredible camera. Just ergonomically, it didn't fit my hand well. when I sold it, I had it for 2 years. It only had like 2,000 clicks on it when I got rid of it. Ugh. And let's see. I'm sorry, I'm going through the chat. If I missed your question, now might be a good time to repost it while I'm going through these. And Wayne, pre-ordered. Awesome. We're going to be OM3 buddies here soon. And then stop and think how lucky we are to have choices and the means to have the camera for work, one for fun. Mine are all for fun, but one for my kids' functions, and one for street messing around. Yes. Definitely it's first world problems, right? Not problems, but uh, we're very privileged and very lucky to be able to buy these cameras. Of course, I have no kids, family, wife, nothing. So it's easy for me to buy these, right? I don't have to like look over my shoulder. I bought a camera, honey. Yeah. And I would really love to see them go EPM2 small sometime again with each as date tech, with as up-to-date tech as they can fit into a yes. I hope they do, because that's what Fuji did with like the XM5, right? They basically put the latest, what they, good or bad, they put their latest stuff in there. No IBIS, no EVF, but $800 in a camera this big, right? I mean, so they must be doing something. They seem to have a little more wiggle room than OM Systems in terms of being able to crank out cameras. But OM Systems will get there. I'm confident they will. Hi, Rob. Can you please explain what focusing to infinity means? I Googled it, but I still need answers. Uh, man, I've never thought about it, but essentially, you've reached the maximum. Let me think, how can I word this? Maybe I shouldn't attempt it. When I think about focusing to infinity, what that means is that because, okay, that's a tough question. Maybe that's why it's even hard to find on Google. Uh, when you think about focusing less than infinity, right, at some specific distance, you hit a point, right, where all of the points of this particular spot converge onto the sensor into the same spot on the sensor, relatively speaking. So this is your sensor, this is your focal plane, right? So the lens will focus everything from this point so that all of the light converges to the same point onto your sensor. Focusing to infinity, right? That means there's no focal plane on this end. So what are you focusing on if you're focusing to infinity? Well, what you're doing is basically you focus the lens to a point that the lines converge so that even if you tried to focus past a certain, let's say the lens can focus to 300 meters, right? And then beyond 300 meters, at that point, the convergence of lines onto the point of the sensor doesn't change if you try to focus past 300 meters. So that would be infinity focus. Now, if you go past infinity, which is kind of an oxymoron, or whatever the word is, if you go past infinity on the lens, and you can do that on some lenses, basically you've changed the focal point so that the focus point on your sensor don't converge to the same point. You've changed the light rays so they don't converge onto the same point onto the sensor. They start to go to different points on the sensor. So you've gone beyond infinity. So it's kind of a fine, it's hard to explain, but that's basically what's happening is your lens is designed to focus precisely to a certain point. I don't know what that limit is, but let's say it's 300 meters. And then from 300 meters to infinity, the lens cannot focus the light rays to any finer point on your sensor. But you can adjust the lens past infinity where the lines start to diverge again, or the focus light or the light rays start to diverge again. So that's all. I didn't explain that well, I know, but that's how I understand it, is how the light rays converge to a single point on the sensor at a certain point, and if you were to try to focus beyond that, the points of or the light ray points of light rays will start to diverge again, and that's going beyond infinity. So everything from 300 meters out is the sharpest point that you're going to get on your sensor. Man, I didn't explain that well, but I hope that made some sense. Do you think Olympus is moving towards more hybrid cameras? Yes. The OM3 is definitely very hybrid centric. It's a photocentric looking camera, but it's actually a step towards more hybrid workflow, where this dial here, you flip it, it goes right into movie mode. Big deal, right? That is a big deal, because now when you look at your mode dial, you can see exactly what mode you're in. At the same time, you can see what mode you're in on the camera, whether it's in photo mode or movie mode. So being in movie mode, I can now see I'm in aperture priority, shutter priority, manual mode, or if I'm using one of my custom save settings. So really, this is a step towards making this more of a hybrid camera so that the workflow is easier for people that like to do both video and photo. If on the OM1, I have to turn the dial all the way to movie mode, and then I have to go into the menu if I want to put it in the aperture priority, shutter priority, or manual, or use a custom setting, right? I can't just simply set it with a dial. So the workflow on this is multi-layered. Put it in the movie mode, go into the menu, set the mode to aperture priority, go into the other settings, set the color profile, the bit rates, all of that. I do that all menu driven. Many, many layers there in the menu to get to the movie. Whereas this camera, not only do I have quick access from uh, movie mode to aperture priority, shutter priority, custom modes, but also all of the color profiles and whatever other settings, ISO, that you can do through the super control panel are going to be tied to being in movie mode. So it makes this camera much more of a hybrid camera in terms of workflow. Now, in terms of specifications, uh, it'll do 4K 8-bit, 4K 10-bit, has a log profile. It has probably, 90% of what most people would use if they're a hybrid shooter. They're not dedicated video shooters, but it's not anywhere near like what, say, the the Panasonic G9 Mark II can do in terms of video features and capability and the robustness of the features and the quality of the video. It's going to be better on a G9 Mark II. I think quality-wise, we're kind of splitting hairs, but I'm not a video guy. All I can say is, like right now, for the stream, I'm just using program mode. Program mode on this camera. Or is it this one? Program mode, EM10 Mark II. Uh, I don't I don't get into video that much, and I'm at like ISO 1000 because I don't have enough light in here. But yeah, I would say definitely it's a step towards making the cameras more of a hybrid workflow. When they start adding more check the box type features like waveforms and whatever else, false color, whatever else you can do for video, right? Shutter angle, things like that. And then it'll be almost like a full featured video camera and a full featured photo camera. Right now, it's a hybrid camera that does video very well and has everything you would really need for most people. But hardcore videographers, none of the OM system cameras are really uh, checks all the boxes that they would be looking for. Somebody like Jordan over at Petapixel, he's a good person to kind of watch and get a feel for. Does this camera have the video features that you need? I would argue most people don't need all of that stuff, but so Nikon did a similar numbering with F and D bodies, F1 to F6, D100 to D850. Yeah, and now the Z bodies, Z50, Z6, we see a Z500. I know Nikon's similar. Everybody has their own naming conventions. I get the dual card slot issue redundancy, but I've never had a card error and have been shooting for 10 years. Other issues, yes, but not read-write errors. Maybe just lucky. I've had it. I've had rewrite errors. But for me, it's not about the read-write errors or redundancy. It's more about my workflow as a backup. So when I'm using my OM1, I got two card slots. Both cards get the same image, right? So I always have duplicates. And then I take out card slot number 1, put it in my computer, get all the photos off, format it, format it back in my camera. Card slot number 2 doesn't get touched. It keeps all of the pictures that I had until it gets full. Or I backed it up on my computer. So my computer has 2 copies now. The main working drive and then the backup drives. Then I can format card slot number 2. So I never lose, this is for my paid work. I never lose the images from a paid job. They're always backed up either on the SD card initially, and then over time, as I back up and do redundancy on my main computer here on my desktop. So it's a workflow thing for me, not so much worrying about a card failure. It's about having backups. So what also matters is what makes you feel good, also what fits comfortably in your hand. Yes. And the two are independent. Something that make you feel good but not be comfortable in your hand. Let's not go there. I think the dual card slot issue is only an issue if you're using the camera for paid work where the potential for images lost, however unlikely, is a concern. Yes. Yeah, so the other thing I do in terms of workflow is once in a while I'll finish a job. Like if I get the job in the morning, uh, usually I'll plan to do something else after that. And I don't want to use my all-in-one Mark II. So I'll take the memory card out, put it in my pocket, and take it with me. I'll leave the OM1 in the car with the second card slot still in the car, right? The memory card in that. And then I'll take my Pen F with me and go do a photo walk or whatever it is I'm going to do. Whatever camera I want to shoot with instead of the OM1. Because OM1 is going to be, that's my work camera. I don't really use that for anything. I like to use my Pen F or whatever other camera I have here. So I'll take that card out, carry it with me so that if somebody breaks into my car and steals my camera, I didn't lose the work from the paid job. Now you could argue you could take it out. You could, even if you had one card slot, you would do that anyway. But it's the whole thing of having, it's the entire workflow of the dual card slot system that for paid jobs, you really have to have a catastrophic failure on all levels to lose the work that you did from a paid job, when you have a workflow worked out for your paid jobs with dual card slots and backing up at home, right? You'd have to have a catastrophic failure on all fronts, like the fires in California where your house burned down and probably your office burned down if you're keeping like an off-site. So ideally, you have a cloud storage solution as well. The OM3 is the lowest price interchangeable lens with stacked sensor. OM system needs an updated OM5 with TruePic 10 processor and non-stack. Maybe. Uh, I mean, we can play roulette with the pieces, right? Not roulette. What's the word? Uh, but we can shuffle the different parts and research that they've already done in all different directions and try and come up with a camera that fits a certain price slot. And that's one way to go, right? An OM5 Mark II with updated processor, but I would imagine they would have to use the new sensor with the updated processor because that research and development is done. Uh, the TruePic 10 works best with the stack sensor. I don't know if they could adapt it easily without doing a lot more research or development to make it backwards compatible with the previous sensor that's not stacked. Because the stack sensor, not only the stacking, but it's a quad Bayer sensor. So it actually has 4 pixels for each single pixel that we get in our images. So technically it's an 80 megapixel sensor, but they're using a quad Bayer array to make it a 20 megapixel sensor. And I think that part also is really tied to the TruePic. And then on top of that, the autofocusing system and everything else. So I don't think that would work. I don't think we'll ever see a non-stacked OM camera with a TruePic 10 processor. Didn't the OM system CEO say OM systems are moving towards nature and environment, or did I dream that? He said that very early on, yeah. And they still are. But the OM3 is kind of might be a one-off camera like the Pen F. I don't know. I hope not. I hope they keep diversifying their line of cameras. I would love to see a huge range of cameras, rangefinders, with and without EVF, more DSLR style or SLR style cameras, more vintage style cameras across the line, whether it's rangefinder or DSLR, more professional grade cameras that maybe video centric, maybe landscape centric with higher megapixels, maybe video centric cameras with less megapixels. I want to see a diversity, and I'd like to see a lot more camera designs. This is utilitarian. It's very comfortable. And it's a handsome camera, I think, by any account. But this is, if I hide this and this, all of a sudden it looks like just about every other camera out there, right? So uh only hang up is the price versus features that's holding the camera back. I would pay the freight if I didn't already have the last 3 flagships available. Yeah, like I said, it's not a pragmatic choice. It's a subjective choice to buy an OM3. There's been complaints about the EVF resolution. What isn't mentioned is that it's really good eye relief, which is so important, especially for eye. Yes, Olympus our own system seems to have that nailed. The eye relief seems to be very good on that. It's not something have to deal with because I don't wear glasses when I'm shooting, but uh, And eye relief is basically the distance uh, that, so that you have room for, if you wear glasses, you don't have to take your glasses off to use the camera, right? And Seraphin says, I want OMS to do well, even though I think the camera is highly overpriced and taking advantage of loyal customers. I hope it sells well. Personally, I'm disappointed in the low-res viewfinder. Yes. I didn't hear that mentioned quite as often, though, in general. No one that looked through the viewfinder or not too much in the forums are people complaining about the EVF being, I mean, there were complaints, of course, critics, I should say, not complaints, but critics of the lower res EVF. It's really not, I really don't think it's a problem because it's relative. It's a 20 megapixel sensor. How high res does the EVF have to be for you to get critical focus? If you have a 2 million, if you look at like the A7CR and the A7C2, those are 2.36 million pixel EVFs, and you got a 60 megapixel sensor. That might be a little bit of an issue, right? Because you'd have to punch in like 40x to be able to see every pixel. Uh, with this camera being only 20 megapixels, you don't have to zoom in quite as far to make sure you got critical focus. And that's really the only time I see it being an issue, and not even in photography as much. I mean, some people, yeah, but for video, being able to punch in and zoom and get critical focus, a high-res EVF does make a difference, considerable difference. I really did see it was a lot easier to get critical focus in video with the higher res EVF of my OM1 than it was, say, with my EM5 Mark III. But that is a very, very small use case for me, and it's not a deal breaker by any means because it's not my area. But I'm wondering if they fixed the low light issue. If you're talking about the autofocus, probably not. I'm not seeing any difference because I noticed when I was in low light, yeah, I was like, it's not focusing, you know. So I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that I didn't see any improvement. My initial impression is I don't see any improvement. Now I don't have any metrics. I mean, the way to test it would be to set up some sort of scientific method and test OM1 versus OM3 and see if there's any difference. But I can't imagine there would be any difference. Uh, it's the same sensor basically. I would pair the 14 to 42 easy. I know the ribbon cable breaks in that lens, but it's really, yes. And it's not bad. I'll show you what it looks like. I think the 14 to 42 easy lens is optically is amazing. So, and I got a rubber lens hood on here, right? I don't know why. I can't have a lens without a lens hood, and then if I turn it on, it's still really, really compact, great range. And then turn it off, and it's very compact, right? I'll take the lens hood off. Just some people are like, take the lens hood off. I don't know how it really looks. So it's very compact. And one other thing I should mention is the prism here doesn't overextend the lens mount too much, right? So, because someone had asked me about using a Kip-on tilt adapter, I think it would work on this. Whereas when you look at like the prism on the OM1, it extends out quite a bit, and the Kip-on tilt adapters can't slide in the upward direction. They slide in every other direction, but not up. But I think it would be fine on this one. But I don't have a Kip-on adapter to try, so I'm just guessing. And what is that 4-shot panel? That is National Harbor here, local to me. Just the the open area they have in front of all these buildings. I forget what it's called, but it's just a big open space. Good morning. So what's the deal with the OM3? Who is it for? Really anybody that wants to shoot, street or family or, and just have a more compact, high, camera. Basically, it's a flagship camera in a compact form. So, and of course, people that like this style of camera. But it's more compact than any other camera with these capabilities. So if you're just looking, if you don't care about the nostalgia piece, all you care is about the form of being more compact, that would be one audience, right? People that want a compact camera, but yet still have all of the flagship features. So that's one audience. Another audience, and I think the main audience, are people that want that retro style, but still have premium flagship level performance. That's probably the main audience. The other audience is people that want to get the creative features that the creative dial offers. And people like to do in-camera processing and play with the colors and tones and highlight shadows, filters, all of that stuff, and have very, very high performance. This is probably a little bit overkill for people that want to do that, in my opinion, but uh, you can't get that really uh, in OM systems unless you go back to the EP7 or Pen F. And those are hard to get. This one hopefully won't be hard to get. You can get it pretty readily right now. And this outperforms those other cameras in the OM system lineup. For the creative types, I think the Panasonic LUT system that they set up with the app, that's probably a better choice for really creative people, right? But you have to be a little bit more technical too. If all you want is just to have a different look and do it very simply, and do it yourself, I think OM Systems gives you all of that right here at the creative dial. Uh, if you just want to use other people's LUTs in camera, you can do that with Panasonic. If you want to do, but people can argue, you can do that in post-processing software anyway, right? If you have a competent software. Then this creative dial and the LUTs just don't matter. You just do everything in post-processing, and that's how I generally do it. I like to play with the in-camera art filters sometimes and the colors, just for fun. But that's not why this camera appealed to me. So for me, this camera is for the retro look, but still being flagship level performance and capability in a compact form. That's what that's me, and I think a lot of others. Uh, so hopefully this appeals to a lot of people. You know, uh, I mean, I think it really hits all the cylinders at once. The only thing that gives people pause is like if you want all of that, you're going to pay for it. It's $2,000, but that's not bad, really. I mean, look at the price of all the cameras out there. Yeah, you can buy cheaper ones, but none that look this good, right? Anyhow, but good question, Henry. Who's it for? That's a very good question. Uh, and it's weather sealed, so you can take it with you everywhere, right? Street photographers. Roman, how are you? Hi, Brady. Sorry for being late. Did you order the OM3 or you got it beforehand? Uh, I have it on loan from OM Systems right now. I hope they sell it to me so I don't have to pre-order. But if they don't sell it to me, I'm going to pre-order from my local camera store, districtcamera.com. And hello from the Philippines. Sadly, there's not store here that sells Brando. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, you might have to go on eBay or some other auctions. I don't know what's available in the Philippines, but you'll be able to find it that way. And Rob Trek, is that in the neck strap? Is that included? That's my neck strap. The included neck strap is like the typical one that you never use. That's my neck strap. It's not the one you get with the camera is like, one that you've seen, and it's very thin. Let me just get it because I don't want you to think you're getting an all-in-one strap. It's not even as nice as the all-in-one strap. And I love that OM Systems is going minimalist on the boxes. I mean, I really like the old boxes that were all fancy and painted, but I really appreciate that they're trying to be eco-friendly, using less materials and less paint, better for the environment. So it's less waste ultimately. So you get this USB-C cable, but no charger. Oh, here's the strap. There's the strap. So yeah, it's like 1 inch. It's just a 1 inch strap. Nothing special. So I should mention this, that no USB-C charger, just the cable. No FLM3 flash. Okay. I thought there was more. Those are the two big ones though. That you used to get. You used to get a little wall charger and a flash, right? But you don't get that with this. Probably if the other, I can't remember what the other thing was. No manual, probably. No manual came in this box, but I will mention those two things. As Rob demonstrated, there is thought put in ergonomics even in this camera. The knob location is away from the knuckle. I doubt that is by chance. I think that's more by design to match the original OM1 film camera, because on the OM1 film camera, that's where the self-timer is. So, here's the OM1 film camera, right? And that's where they put the self-timer. So if you look at the OM1, it's kind of in the same place, right? Let me see if I can. They're very similar though, aren't they? They did a good job, I think. Now, my last stream, I did all the measurements with like a caliper. They're about the same size and weight. Very close, within a few percent of each other in any direction. So my daughter went to a fashion show in New York City last week. Great photos with the M10 Mark IV, tweaks colors and camera. She'll love the OM3. Yes, absolutely. She will love the creative dial. It's amazing. It really does a lot of cool little things when you get into it. Says I have the M10 Mark IV. I'm trying to get started for. Sorry. Is there more? I don't see more. Sorry, Dick. Go ahead and just repost that. It's 30 Tricks. They raised the prices back up for the OM1 the day they launched. Yeah. For people who decided new camera isn't for them, I admit I'm just pissed at all. Yeah, happens all the time. Every company does it in every sector. It's not just cameras. It's everything. It's everything you buy. Companies just, If that's so much better than Pen F, I should spend 1,300 more than I did for a used Pen F. I don't know. Depends what you would use the camera for. If you're just doing point and shoot stuff and like the creative dial, I would get a Pen F. But if you want all of the other things it can do, particularly the really fast and excellent autofocus, the yeah, the OM3 is by far superior camera performance-wise, and image quality is about the same, but I would I don't know. Pen F is really this is such an awesome camera. It's a little smaller and has the creative wheel. It doesn't do 4K video. It doesn't have great autofocus. Uh, slower frames per second. It's a 8-year-old camera, maybe 9 now, right? 8 or 9 years old. So it's just it's going to have 8 or 9-year-old tech in it. But ultimately, this will take just as good a picture, but it's not going to have all of the modern things, right? And are the bracketing settings on the M10 IV other than in AP mode? I don't think so. I think they regulated everything to the AP mode, a lot of the things. It's unfortunate. But I've never used the M10 Mark IV, so I can't answer that question directly with having the camera in hand to show you. But yeah, maybe someone who has the M10 Mark IV could answer that in the chat section for me. My answer is I seriously doubt it, but I don't know. And speaking of full plates or L brackets, would you have a recommendation for the OM1? Is that a little off topic, but L brackets seem far and few between. Yeah, I think they're expensive though. I haven't found a cheap third-party L bracket, but this small rig makes one. This is without the L bracket. Uh, if you want to customize full plate, you can get generic L brackets that will cover the full plate. You just have to take it off if you want to change the battery. Alternatively, you could charge the battery via the USB-C port, but uh, there's a gap here where you would slide the L bracket in here, but it can slide in and out. I didn't get that option because this was gifted to me from Marco. I'm sorry, RRS, not yeah, really right stuff. I forget what I said before. This one, I think this alone is like $100, and then it's like another $50 to get the L plate. But this is rock solid, man. It's and if you have bigger hands, this little extra here can be helpful. I have small hands, so I'm good with or without this, but uh yeah, you got the Arca Swiss plate here. There's a gap here for extending out an L bracket to give you room for your ports. And then on the bottom, it's a full plate, and you can access the battery, very easily. So that's the one I recommend. And didn't OM System claim they couldn't add new features in the OM1 Mark II to the original OM1 because of the extra RAM that increased buffer? Features are in the OM3 with small buffer. It has a smaller buffer for the Pro Capture, but I don't know if that necessarily means it doesn't have the extra RAM. So I can't really answer that question. I don't know. I don't know that it doesn't have the extra RAM. It might, and all I did was handicap the Pro Capture buffer in software. I don't know, to be honest. And the 25 megapixel sensor is slower readout on prioritizing speed and reducing roller shutter. Yes. Yep. I haven't seen testing comparing the two off the top of my head, but the readout speed was pretty decent on the Panasonic, that people didn't really worry about rolling shutter too much. But the OM1 is definitely better. Definitely better. Oh, and Roman says, would be strange for middle class camera to have a better sensor than the flagship. Not necessarily, right? I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, I can't think of any examples, but why not? I thought for sure there was a camera that came out with a new sensor in a lower tier camera. I just can't remember. It might, it's going to be a different brand. I just can't remember which one. Do I understand correct? Henry Westridge is asking, do I understand correctly they removed the focus clutch from the new 17? I don't like that. If anything, I wish they would have added it to the 25. Yes, it is gone. So here it is, the new 17. No focus clutch, as you can see. And my chat jumped all the way back up again. One second while I get down here. Okay. G9 II is a tank. Anyone that says it handles better than OM1 is full of it. Yeah, well, to each his own, right? I mean, there are people that love the handling of the G9, so I'm not going to take away from that experience that they're having. I just know I'm way better off with the OM1 ergonomically. It feels so much better in my hand than the S5 did when I had it. So it's a very personal thing. And Marcia says, hit the thumbs up, Rob. Oh, thank you, Marcia. You're always so kind. I'm so sorry I missed you in December when you came up here. Can't believe it. I'm really bad about that. I have been really bad about my social, friends and family kind of thing this year. I know it's only February, but usually in January, I'm like all in, man. I'm like getting in touch with people, saying Happy New Year. And then now we got Valentine's Day coming up, and I don't have anything planned for Valentine's Day even. Uh, so I've been kind of a social hermit this year. I got to change that. I'm going to change that. I mean, I go out with the photo club every week, and that's great. But, it's like out of sight, out of mind. That's a problem because there's a lot of people. I know a lot of people. I like to keep in touch with them, even if I don't see them in person. And I haven't done that this year. I don't think I've reached out to one person that I haven't seen in a year. Ugh, anyway, that's personal problem. Okay. Let's see. I have my old EM10 Mark I. Do you think which one have the same size but have better AF? The EM5 Mark III. It's much better. That would be the first place to start, and then try the OM5. And then from the OM5 would be the OM3. So there you go. EM EM5 Mark III, pay a little more. OM5, pay a lot more. OM3. That would be the way to go. Uh, and I don't think there's anything on the Panasonic side that's that small. So that's where I would go if you want to stay in the Micro Four Thirds system. Make a 300 euro social media friendly camera and all the kids will buy. Yeah, or the parents will buy it for their kids, right? Because I would imagine a lot of the best-selling cameras on Amazon that I see are all these cheapo piece of crap cameras. You know, it's the parents buying it for their 8-year-old kid or whatever, however old. I don't have kids, so I don't know. That's why they're best sellers, is because the parents with the money are buying them. But I don't know about 14, 15-year-olds. You know, they work they have a summer job, they make a few bucks. What are they going to spend their money on? $200-300 camera, probably, if they want. And Eric is here. Good to see you. Good morning. And Flatcap says, I like the OM3 has finally added select switch for stills, video, SQ. Maybe it will provide custom support for selecting and saving. It does. It does do that. You can have 5 photo custom settings and separately 5 movie custom settings. Completely independent. So, and you can name them in the menu. You can give it a name, right? So I'll put this into movie mode, and then I can select custom mode 4, and that's going to be only for video. So all of my video settings, color profiles, codecs, whatever, 100% video is saved into C4. So that's what I was talking about earlier that makes this more of a hybrid camera. The workflow is much better. Hi, Rob. Interesting new OM3, a little pricey though. Yep, you're not alone. A lot of people feel that. Currently, Amazon UK have the OM3 available for delivery March 8th. Awesome. Use my affiliate links down below. If you click on it, it should go to the UK site. Then I can make a couple bucks. It's always greatly appreciated. And you know, I do appreciate all of the support, the coffees, the super chats, everything you guys do for me. It helps me out a lot. And then Jeff says, focusing to infinity equals hyperfocal distance. No, that's different. Hyperfocal distance is more about picking a point that you want to start focusing, and you want everything from that point being in focus, although it really isn't. Focusing to infinity is different. That's going out all the way as far as you can. Hyperfocal is usually you're trying to determine a minimum focus point, and you want everything from that point to be in focus behind that. So it's a little bit different application of infinity focus. And I think about focusing to infinity similar if you stand in the middle of a long flat road, the point where the road seems to converge is like infinity from my eye's perspective. That's a good way to think of it. Yep. Like I said, I'm not good at explaining things, ironically. Focusing to the future and beyond. Yes. Great Vanzini, good to see you. Oh, and Gary's here. Hey, Gary, let's see. Hi, Rob. I'm looking forward to actually handling the OM3 with lens. At first look event in Exeter, UK on the 20th, the larger battery on the OM3 is a big plus. Yeah. So yeah, battery life is great on it. Definitely. It uses the same one in the OM1. And Robin, good to see you. Robin Schaefer says, if you focus beyond infinity, the focus point of lens will be behind the focal plane of the sensor. As you focus from close focus infinity, the lens moves closer to the focal plane. Yes. So what I meant by diverging the light rays. It's because it's focusing behind the sensor, like uh, Robin was saying there. But on the sensor, if the sensor is where you're trying to focus onto, it diverges because the light rays are now focusing behind the sensor. So I'm so sorry. I was so bad at explaining that, but Shane Penna did not make a G9 Mark I body for the Mark II version. They used cheaper S5 style, no top plate LCD, which made the G1. I agree. That top plate LCD is a huge selling point for me. I love the top plate LCD. That's why I bought the Fuji X-H2 versus the X-T5. I wanted that top plate LCD. I love it. I still might get a G9 Mark II. They're not quite cheap enough yet. It's so old now that I really wouldn't pay more than $200 or $300 for it, but they're still going for like 600. So I'm like, you know. By the way, are those swords behind you part of your security system? Yes. They're real. They're real samurai swords. Let's see. And Walter says, new rumors of the Z9 Mark II with Red Raw video support. Remember, Nikon acquired Red. Yes, I saw those rumors. That's awesome. The Z9 is an awesome camera. It's too big for me, but it's really nice. That's why the Z8 is on my short list of cameras. One day I'll get a Z8. But I don't know, if the S1R Mark II comes out, and it does everything the S1R did in terms of execution of features like high-res shot, focus stacking, pre-capture, you know, all the execution of all these features. I'll probably go L mount instead of Nikon Z mount. The only Z mount camera I might consider is like an old Z7 Mark II, because I can get that pretty cheap, but not quite cheap enough yet for me to get one. But eventually it'll come down. Thank you, Sir Rob, for making up my mind. Giving up the 300 f4 is Pro and 12 to 100 Pro for the 12 to 42.8 and 40 to 152.8, and 1.2 Prime is also advised by Sir Christopher Wheeler. Awesome. I mean, the 300 f4 Pro is an awesome lens, but you know, it's you're stuck at 300, right? So that doesn't work for some people. I'm fine with it, but headed out to shoot. Have a great day. Thank you, Wayne. You too. And I think the OM3 gave enough for Olympus fans, but not enough maybe to bring in new people. But the price is what might hold people back. I know, time will tell. We'll see. We'll see. Because right now you can get, if you can pre-order an OM3. What's the only other vintage cameras out there? The XT series, right? Or the X100. And they're cheaper, but it's a tough call. When you start tacking on the premium glass, I don't know, Fuji makes nice stuff. You know, I like my XH2. I just don't like the XT5 dials, no top plate LCD. I almost bought an XT3 last week, but I'm holding off. I only have enough money to buy an OM3. So I was like, if I buy the XT3, I'm going to be hurting to buy the OM3. So I didn't pull the trigger, but I found one on my local camera store. It had only like a couple hundred clicks on it. It's like brand new XT3 for 800 bucks. And it has, you know, the XT3 has that 26 megapixel sensor, which is awesome sensor. I'd argue better than the 40 megapixel, but I had to let it go. I have to pick one, right? And I'm gonna pick OM Systems over Fuji every time. And Mike Cruz says it'll go on sale soon enough. As you can see, plenty of Olympus owners already going for it at the intro price. It's how new products are. Yes. And Lauren is here. Oh my goodness. Metal is a good thing. Flip screen, not so much. Do you want to deal with a flippy one out in the street? Unfortunately, it appears to be the current trend. I don't need video features and no grip. Yeah, you're going to have to get a third-party grip or a half leather case. And I don't have a problem with the flippy screen. Either way, the only time really that the flip out screen is an issue is when you're on a tripod with an L bracket. Then, flipping the screen out could be an issue. And that's really not an issue, because if you're using an L bracket, you're probably doing a pano, so leaving it in the camera is probably fine. And I know people like to say they can just kind of look down and take the shot, right? And it's not extended out. But I do this all the time now. I'm so used to just flipping my screen out and just working like this, just looking down like that. I I don't have a problem with it. It's not as convenient as just tilting the screen up. And the Fujis have sort of that angle tilt, right? You can flip up and then tilt a certain number of degrees out. That's probably the best solution. My A7R5, that will do both, fully articulate or tilt. But it's a little bit bulkier because of that, right? Yeah, from a distance, it looks like so Gray Vanzini says, yes, from a distance, it looks like a 35 millimeter camera. It does. It does. Trust me, I had a lot of eyeballs on my on the OM3 when I was out and, shooting with it. It attracts attention. And I think that's good. When you go out shooting in street, don't be a creeper and try and hide the camera and, you know, just own it. You're out there doing street photography or whatever. You're taking pictures in a public place. Wear the camera out in front of you and just own it, you know? Uh, Security threats aside, if you're worried about your camera getting stolen, then yeah, you might want to be more discreet. But I no longer try to be discreet when I'm out shooting street photos or doing photo walks. I just own it. I'm out there. I got the camera around, visible, up to my face all the time, etc. Are rope straps comfortable? Artisans look great, worth the extra expense. I don't I don't use the rope straps. I have made my own straps out of paracord, which is really thin. And the cameras, the OM system Micro Four Third cameras are so light that it doesn't dig into my neck or anything. But I'm always wearing a collared shirt. Uh, but yeah, I can't say. I've never used a rope strap. And Rick says, I'm really looking forward to handling the OM3 at my local camera shop in March. I'm happy with the specs. It will come down to handling. Yes. Um, I talked about handling a little bit earlier in the stream. My God, it's been over 2 hours. So if you can find it, I might have to go back and index the stream later or cut parts out and make another video. They always tell you, repurpose your content, make shorts and all of that. And I'm like, it's work. For everyday photography, the focusing in PenF is just fine. Obviously, it's not bad. Yes, I agree. I use it all the time. It's fine. I don't worry about missing focus with the PenF, because I'm not trying to do sports action with it. Then I would be a little more concerned. But then, you use other techniques, right? Sort of the depth of field and all of that. DW says, you'll never blame pen for what it doesn't work as good as a newer camera. It works amazing for what it's supposed to do. Yes, I agree. OM3 17 Mark II will be nice together, or use a Leica Lumix 15, nice for street, or use the 25, come to think. Yes, all of those lenses. Excellent. And what was the question about the EM10 Mark IV? I missed the details. It was about if you could use focus bracketing separately. Like right now, they can only access focus bracketing through AP mode, but they weren't able to do it through the menu without being in AP mode. That was the question. What's the next session of the annual Zoom with several? February 23rd will be the next one. That's a Sunday morning at 9 a.m. And system RAM and buffer size are not the same thing. True. Hi, Rob. I like that the OM3 will save video to custom settings, something OM has needed to do for a long time. I just read the new OM3 menu. Yes, it's awesome. It's awesome. So it's really, truly a hybrid video camera, more so than the OM1 Mark II. Because I don't think the OM1 Mark II, you can save videos separately. So the OM3 is definitely a step up there. And John Truman is here. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Let's see. Plugged Nichols. Boy, I haven't seen that name in a long time. Oh, you have a YouTube channel too. Gosh, why does that sound familiar? I must have watched something you've done. Anyway, as good as the camera may be, I don't think it's going to get new users into M43 considering the competitors' offerings. So, yeah, I think on the retro side, I think it has an edge, but not a huge edge over, say, Fuji X-T5, right, in silver or black. Uh, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes, you know. It's good to have choices. But I don't disagree with that statement. I'm just wondering if the market is big enough for both. Because there's also a Nikon ZF at the same price, right? Which is pretty much the same look. It's just bigger. Natura says the Panasonic GX8 was the first to have 20 megapixel sensor and it wasn't a flagship. Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. This was in reference to, I couldn't think of an example of a, not flagship camera having a newer sensor. And Laura says, I don't do video. For those which do video, isn't the iPhone said to be excellent? I guess. People are making movies with an iPhone. Let's see. C-Malk says, hyperfocus about 1.3 of the way into your depth of field. Roughly, yeah. That's a good rule of thumb, 1/3 of the way. Not 1.3, but 1/3. Exactly. Yes, 1/3 of the way. So that's what I do when I want to try to get as much as I can in focus. If I have a lot of depth in the image, then I will focus about 1/3 of the way into the frame as a rule of thumb. There's other factors like your aperture, number one, your focal length or field of view, number two, sensor size, number three. A lot of things come into play if you want to get really technical about it. But rule of thumb, 1/3. Why is battery life so terrible on the Lumix? I cannot answer that. I've never found it to be terrible. Not so much worse so than my OM system or any other mirrorless camera, to be honest. Just make sure you're using OEM, like original manufacturer batteries, and you should get decent battery life. Said at my age, it's good to be seen. Yes. And Blaine says, I think the fact that the OM3 body is made with a different material and carrying over the flagship tech just a year after the OM1 Mark II came out leaves no choice for the price point. Yes. I agree. And Christopher Wheeler says, I've had top plate LCDs and a couple of cameras over the years, and to be honest, I never really used them. Quite happy. Other uses for the real estate, yes. And that's the God honest truth. I like the top plate LCD, but I don't really use it. Um, I just like it. I just like how it looks. Like the XH2 has a really nice top plate LCD. I don't really use it, but when I look at my camera, so I'm looking at it from an aesthetic point, not a practical point. And for all intents and purposes, I control and do all the settings on the back of the LCD or in the EVF. But the top plate LCD, I can look at it and say, okay, the camera's battery is full and the memory cards are in it. I don't have to open up the battery door or open the battery door. So in that sense, the top plate LCD on the XH2 is pretty handy. That's about all I use it for. Ellie is your security system, but all your deliveries are up a tree. Yeah, with the UPS man, I know, right? Uh, Hi Rob, Olympus should love you because of you, I have several lenses and just ordered the OM3. Thanks. Thank you, Rolla. Uh, I'm sure Olympus is content with what I do. I don't, or OM Systems, right? And the fact that they sent me an OM3 in advance, I think reflects that they have confidence in the work that I've done in the past and what I'll do in the future. So I really appreciate that they sent it to me because it gives me an opportunity to interact with you guys and help you make that decision if this is the right camera for you or not before you put your money down on it, because it's not even out yet. You can pre-order, but you can always cancel the pre-order pretty easily, right? Uh, so that's why I'm doing these open Q&As in the forums and here in the live stream. I want everybody to have as much information as possible, good or bad, about the camera. And, whatever bad or compromises are in the camera are by design, right? It's not like they couldn't do it. They did it by design. If you want the other stuff, you get the OM1 Mark II. If you want the grip, the dual card slots, the FLM3 flash, whatever, right? Uh, but if you want the aesthetic retro design without compromise on the feature set, very minimal compromise. With the addition of the creative dial, the OM3 really, really checks a lot of boxes, I think. Rob, the Z5 is only $996. I don't want the Z5. It's got this 24 megapixel sensor. If I can get a Z7 II for just a little more, I'd rather have that. Or even a Z7 I can buy for the same price as a Z5. I can get a used Z5 for $799. I can get a used Z7 for like 1100 and a used Z7 II for like 1600. But I'm not in a hurry to get any of those cameras. I can wait till they come down a little more. Or I have a little more money. Either way, it's give and take, right? Either I have enough money and I can buy it now, or I don't have enough money and I have to wait. And either the price has to come down or I have to make more. One or the other. Still have my Fuji X100T. Lovely camera, yes. I had it for brief. No, I had the F. I had the X100F. I didn't like it. Beautiful camera. I just didn't like it. It didn't gel with me. Flippy is hard to use on the street. People notice more what you're doing. I agree with that, but like I was saying earlier, I just say own it. If you're going to go out and take pictures of people, let them see you have a camera. And if they don't want you to take their picture, then it'll be obvious, even more so. What's really bad is like discreetly taking a picture of someone and they catch you and they don't want you to take their picture. It's better to be, at least for me, I'm finding. Yesterday I ran into somebody and I was like, "Oh, hi," and they were walking their dog, and it was a beautiful dog. And my friend was with me and kneeled down to take a picture of the dog, and the lady's like, "Don't take a picture of my dog." Really? I don't think the dog's gonna mind or care or know what the heck you're doing. I'm like just, you know, I take enough pictures of my own dog. I don't really care about taking pictures of other people's dogs, but uh, you know, if you don't have a dog and you see a dog and it's pretty, you want to take a picture. And this lady like, "Do you mind not taking a picture of my dog?" I, you know, and it wasn't me. It was like my friend was with me taking a picture. I just couldn't believe it. Why? Why? What's wrong with people? I can understand. Man. And I blame TV and movies for giving photographers a bad rap. Because every time you see a photographer in a movie or TV show, they're always some paparazzi creepy guy with a wife beater shirt on, hadn't shaved in days, and you know, being rude and obnoxious with their camera with the big huge flash. It's like why do you portray photographers like that? You know, most of us are essentially people orientated, creative, and and good-hearted people, and we love photography to capture all of the beautiful things in our world. And if you're part of that world, if you're you know, you're part of that world that we're capturing. So it's really a compliment if we take your freaking picture or take a picture of your dog. It's a compliment. Now I'm being a jerk photographer, but I just couldn't believe it. It just upset me. I mean, I understand if people don't want their picture taken, and I blame TV and movies for that a lot, for giving us this like freaking people out when you take their picture. But anyhow, ah, Marcia says three-legged thing has an ollie made for OMS. What is that? I don't know what that is. Three-legged thing. Oh, okay. So it's this thing. Oh, that's pretty nice. And it goes right up to the battery door, but doesn't cover the battery door. So it's a little bit smaller, but yeah, it's still $100. But yeah, this is a one-piece design, very solid. And there's a little cutout here for the flip screen. So yeah, that looks really good though. Thank you, Marcia. Oops, appreciate that. So there's another option. If you're still here thinking about a plate, it's not a full plate. It stops right at the battery door, but it'll protect the bottom as well as the one that I have here. Just traded my EP7 and EM1 Mark II for an OM1 Mark II. Took out the 4152.8 and it's pure delight. Yeah, that's a huge jump. That's a huge jump in terms of capability, right? I feel like the next OM5 might end up offering the original OM1 tech at around 1,000. Wow, that would be crazy. I would buy one immediately. Uh, oops. The camera looks offset too with Flippy, but mine goes poof. Yeah. And Randy's here. My goodness, Randy, how you doing? Says, hi, Robin. All, how you doing? I want an OM3. Yeah, get one, man. We'll be OM3 buddies. I'm going to start a website, OM3 buddies. Yes, you're not alone. Mark Snyder says, I wish they made it in black. A lot of people are asking for black. Hopefully they'll come out with one. How hard can it be? It's just paint, right? Just paint some black instead of silver. And Roger says, I need a cheap way to scan slides with the M5 Mark III and 30mm lens. A light source and holder for mounted slides 94% of the time. Maybe a flat LED panel and attachment on the end of the lens. They do have those made. Give me a second. I forget the brand. There's a brand name. I'll try and look for this on Tuesday. It's not coming up right now. Mm. I can't find it. Give me one more second here. But you know the guy, what's his name? Steve Onias or Onions. I can't pronounce his name. Here's a link. Here's a link to his video. He talks about flatbed scanners and scanning the way you're talking about. And he has a specific device that I really liked. Start there, and that'll take you down a rabbit hole of all kinds of ways to scan film using your camera and lens. But that's where I started, and I started looking into this. That's where I started, was with that video from Steve Onions. And from there, you can kind of go down that rabbit hole. But that's a good place to start. And Marco says he can confirm that exposure and focus bracketing only available in the AP mode. Okay, thank you, Marco. That's what I thought too. What do you think of the price of the OM3 compared to the XT5, which is cheaper in Nikon ZF, same price as OM3? I think that makes OM3 a tough sell, right? For people that don't already have a bunch of lenses and love Micro Four Thirds. So, like I said, you have to look at the feature set, though, that the OM3 has over those cameras. I had mentioned a few. The frames per second is way higher. 120 frames per second, 50 frames per second with continuous autofocus, much higher shutter speeds of 1/32,000th of a second. Now, this is against the Nikon ZF. And I would argue, the computational features like in-camera high-res shot. I could go on and on. I think the feature set in OM3 is much higher than either of those two cameras, and the execution of those features when they are present in the other cameras, the execution of the OM3 is much better. But that said, somebody walking into a camera store that doesn't know nothing about nothing, they got a lot of choices at that price point. And unless somebody really knows OM system well at the camera store, if you even go into a store, it's going to be a tough sell. People shopping online, Amazon, B&H, they're going to start reading reviews, blah, 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 right? They're not going to get the whole story of how great the OM3 is compared to these other, or let me rephrase that. What are the advantages of the OM3 over these other camera systems at these price points? They're not going to get the whole story. nor are they going to get the whole story. What are the disadvantages of the OM3 over these other camera systems? So it's going to be very difficult uh, when people are shopping the way they do, either online, if they're watching if they're watching the camera content creators like on YouTube. I don't know if TikTok, I've never been on TikTok, but if they're watching social media, most they'll probably find most people are very positive about the OM3 versus, you know, the XD5 and ZF, which have been out a while. But I don't know. I think it's a tough. What I think it's going to be a tough sell to new buyers, right? They're going to have to really. They may not buy the OM3 at that price point unless they really like the design and size and all of that. It's tough. It's very competitive. I wouldn't say it's a tough sell. I would just say it's very competitive. I don't think. I mean, I know why I would pick the OM3 over a ZF or an XD5 very quickly. I know because I know the OM system very well, and I feel like it's a better camera all around than either of those two choices. And to me, far better. Okay, but that's being subjective. Objectively, I can think of a lot of reasons I prefer the OM3, but that's because I know the system. It's going to be a tough sell for somebody doing their own research, right? To find or understand all of the advantages of the OM3 that will make a difference in their photography. But yeah, that's what I think. Uh, and Mark says, I did use the top plate LCD G9 DSLR and XH2. Oh, okay. I mean, I don't use the XH2 enough to begin with to really give a solid answer on that, but I've always liked the top because when I had my D7100, I did use the top plate LCD all the time to look at my exposure comp. But that was a true DSLR with a mirrored lens, right? So I didn't get a lot of information in the EVF. So I would use the top plate LCD a lot. When I first bought my Pen F, you were the first channel I found with great info and instructions. Thank you, Mark. I may have to go back to doing more Pen F videos just because it's so similar to the OM5 in terms of the creative dial that I think I can kill two birds with one stone, right? Revitalize the Pen F world with some new videos and also add value to people that have the OM3. Price on the S5 are rock bottom, roughly $700, but you've already had that, yeah. And it's a fabulous camera. It just wasn't for me. That lady was Karen, yeah. You would consider it $12.99, yep. Bruce Gilden and his flash I find obnoxious. I've heard people say that. I don't know anything about his photography, so I don't want to be critical of it. Oh no, now I have to shave my tank top, wash and act kind. I know, right? The lady might not want her dog to show up on a milk carton. Why dog nappers? I don't know. I never thought of it that way. Do you recommend any of the small electronic blowers? If so, I'll buy it off your link. Yes. Buy, you know, I have one that's very expensive. It makes a great gift, but I wouldn't buy it for myself. It's just too expensive. But uh Oh my gosh. Yeah, any any of these will do. Like this one is 16% off. It's two-way, has the nozzle. Let's see. Three-in-one, air blower and hand pump. This is a good one, and it's only like 15 bucks. So, and what are the reviews? 3.9, that's not great, but here's my affiliate link for this one. You know, the way I feel about these kind of products is when it breaks, you throw it away and buy another one because it's so cheap. If you want a quality blower, I'd have to take some time and research them. But that one looks fine. And because I had one that was cheap like that, it lasted about 2 years, and then uh, something happened to it. I think I broke the tip off or something, and I couldn't use it anymore, so I threw it away, or it stopped charging. It lasted about 2 years, and I only paid like 20 bucks for it. Uh, so these, and it worked great for what it was. So that's what I would do. These kind of things, you buy the cheapest and you throw away. If you want a quality one, I'd have to do some more research to find one that was quality but didn't cost a fortune. And Eric says, think I'll wait for my year-end bonus to get to OM3, trying to pay off my credit cards. Yeah, you're in good company, man. Um, at Rob Trek, I think the good upgrade for those. Okay, this from Angelo Play for one. I think the OM3 will be a good upgrade for those wanting to upgrade to OM5 when they're in the street and travel photography. I think 5, I think, is the new entry-level camera. Yes, instead of the EM10. I agree 100%. If you want to upgrade your OM5, OM3 makes a lot of sense because it's only a little bigger, but far more capable camera. Um, and Lauren says, maybe a show dog. I had a fancy lady and dog in my sights, and she said no pictures. Only one person in 5 years. Huh. That was not a show dog. It's a pretty dog, but that was not a show dog. If I get an OM3, we'll get it with Sirui anamorphic lens for doing video. The lenses look cinematic. Yes. All right, so from everything I've seen, I will replace the OM5 with the OM3. Absolutely. And at RobCheck, should I buy a professional editing tool if I only use cameras and have the editing tool of OM system? I had a 5 to 10. Yeah, no, don't pay for photo editing software if that's all you do. OM Workspace is fine. OM Workspace does a great job. And then there's free stuff like Darktable, Photoscape. There's all kinds of free software that will more than do the job. And so I'm saying it's more money than R6 Mark II. So yeah, hard sell over a full frame monster. Yeah, the R6 Mark II is like $2,000, right? Uh, but that's what I'm saying, that the OM3 is going to appeal to people that just want that nostalgic looking camera, right? Just like Leica. Nothing against Leica, but come on, 10 grand for an M11 and then 5, 6 grand for a lens. So you're out like 16 grand for a Leica M11 and a 50 millimeter. But it appeals to some people, right? So I think the OM3 is not quite Leica, you know, rationale. You're not paying more for it just because you like its looks. You're paying more because of all the capabilities it has. But um, Yeah, it's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. But then when you tack on, that's what I mean. I wonder, I really wonder if people buying new cameras that are going to spend a couple $1,000s really know what they want or know what they need. They may just want it, you know? Nobody needs a new camera if you're really honest, right? But an LB designer says if you were new to cameras, would you drop 2K on just the body of a camera on a system that was new to you? I wouldn't. I would want to dip my toe in first. That's what I did actually. I bought an EM10 Mark II. A month later, I bought the Pen F, which was like twice as much money. So, uh, yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes because so many people were first-time buyers of the X100 and they were paying 1,600 to 2 grand for it. So, on the aftermarket. So maybe the OM3 can capture the same kind of audience. We'll see. And most features on the sensor are never used. Thus, the sensor handling size weight I find the most important. I regard the menus Pani, Canon, and Nikon are great. I agree, and in that order. Panasonic, best menus ever. Canon next, Nikon next. I would put Olympus up there with Pani now with the new menu systems, though. The new menu systems are pretty nice. I mean, I have a lot of experience with their old menu system, and the new menu system is all they did was made it horizontal instead of vertical, and then added some icons, color coded. I mean, they did a lot of things, but it's essentially the same. You still have to go through pages, scroll down, go in. I've never seen anything worse than a Fuji menu, though. I struggle with that menu like crazy. Okay, I use a cheap Wolverine for my old family slides. For better stuff, I went higher end. Yep. OM3 would have to lose features to be cheaper and non-BSI sensor. Will wait a bit. Offer for 1,500. I got my Mark II for 18 a few months back. Yeah, if there's no hurry to buy a camera. If you have an OM1 Mark II, what's the hurry? Unless you just want it. If you want it, buy it. But if you like it, but don't fucking wait, just wait. Wait for a deal. Why not? And Lee Photo makes a very nice L bracket for OM1. Not full plate, but cheaper than a 3LT, three-legged thing, and RRS. Oh, okay. Thank you. I'll have to look into that for my Tuesday stream. All of the L brackets. I really haven't looked ever since I got one, the RRS. Do you have affiliated Leica camera links? No, I do not. All right, I'm gonna go. I gotta teach a couple of students today flash photography, and crap, I have to be there. I have to be there soon. So you guys are awesome. Hopefully, I answered quite. I didn't get a lot of questions specifically about the OM3, but hopefully, I answered your questions. And uh, let me just show it to you. I forget. God, all these cameras, they look so alike from the top. Anyway, I'm gonna make some more videos about the OM3. Keep track of my Flickr and Instagram. I'm going to be posting pictures that I used with the OM3. Uh, and I'm going to try and do some tutorials on some other stuff with the OM3 that's going to be backwards compatible with, say, some of the other Olympus cameras, like the Pen F, obviously, but any Olympus camera. Um, but this is an awesome camera. Feels solid, well built. packed with features. And if you like the design and you have the money, just buy it. Life is short, man. If you can wait, like you just got an OM1 Mark II, if you can wait, it's okay. Just wait. Buy it later when it's on sale, hopefully. But I'm buying it now because I just want it now. And I don't have a problem with the price. I think the price is fair. So you guys, thanks so much for coming in today. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great rest of your week. I'll be back on Tuesday for shopping. We'll do some shopping for hand blowers and L brackets or something. Let's see where it goes. Thanks again for being here.